Hello, friends. In March 2003, the FBI arrested 44-year-old Andrew Carlson. Newspapers reported that this man was extraordinarily lucky. In the history of stock markets, he had earned like no other. He invested $800 and within 2 weeks, it turned into $350 million. The FBI suspected that he was running a scam, that he was an insider trader. When Andrew was questioned, he answered that he was a time traveler. He claimed that he was a traveler from 250 years in the future, and that he knew how the stocks would perform, so he invested in them and got the extraordinary result. The FBI was surprised at this. The FBI was convinced that he was lying, and they took it upon themselves to prove that he was lying. When they investigated some more, they found that before December 2002, there was no record of Carlson. Even more surprising was that on 3rd April, Carlson had to appear in court for his bail hearing. But he had disappeared, never to be found again. Was he really a time traveler? Is it really possible to travel through time? Or is it only fiction for novels and films? In today's video, let's understand the concept of time traveling scientifically. The question is, among all these concepts of time travel, which way is actually possible today? In real life, which way may be possible in the future? And which way is completely unscientific and will never be possible? Don't be surprised. You might think that all of these are rubbish, science fiction, and can't be possible. That's not true. Some of these are actually possible to do, even today. Broadly speaking, there can be two types of time travel. One is to travel into the future, and the other is to go back into the past. Let's talk about traveling to the future first. The scientific explanations and theories of traveling to the future are derived from Albert Einstein's theory of special relativity. The concept of time dilation was introduced by Einstein. Before Einstein, it was believed that time is constant. Whether you are on Earth, or on Mars, or near a black hole, time was believed to be something that was constant. One of the most famous mathematicians and physicists in the world, Isaac Newton, was the one to say this. In his opinion, regardless of the speed with which you are traveling through space, regardless of the position, the flow of time would be constant. Albert Einstein was the first person to refute this. He said that Newton was wrong. Time isn't constant. He claimed that time was like a river. Like water flows in a river. Sometimes it slows down. Sometimes the flow of the river speeds up. Similarly, the flow of time. Sometimes it slows down, and sometimes it picks up the pace, depending upon speed and gravity. Yup, you heard it right, Einstein had said that time can actually be sped up and slowed down if the speed and gravitational force could be changed. This is known as time dilation. The way that your pupils dilate. Similarly, time dilates too when the speed of the object increases, or if an object is subjected to an increased gravitational force. How had Einstein actually discovered this? We can talk about this in some other video. It's a long explanation. It took me days to understand that. So I won't go into that explanation. Basically, time dilation can be done in two ways. The first is with speed. If you are sitting in an object that is going very fast, like an aeroplane or a spacecraft, the faster something goes, the more would time slow down for it, relative to a person who isn't going as fast. If I have to explain it with a practical example. Suppose you have two clocks. I keep one clock with me and put it on the ground. And I send the other clock with you on an aeroplane. The aeroplane goes around the earth once and lands back. If we then compare the two clocks, though the clocks showed the same time initially, but now the clock that you took with you on the aeroplane, the time it shows would be some nanoseconds behind the other. The two clocks wouldn't show the same time, because one clock was traveling at a higher speed. It's subjected to kinematic time dilation. I'm not making this up. There was an experiment in 1971. Atomic clocks were used because time was to be measured precisely. And it was seen that the clock that was in the aeroplane, the time it showed was behind that of the other clock. This was known as the Hafele-Keating experiment. This had proved Einstein's theory of time dilation. It doesn't mean that time is actually slowing down for the clock, the one on the aeroplane. Rather, it means that time is relative. If we observe the clock on the aeroplane from the ground, time slows down in our relation. Because we are seeing it, time is slowing down. For a person on the aeroplane, and the clock on the aeroplane, for it, time would continue to move as it did. Theoretically speaking, if we could build a rocket that travels at the speed of light and you get in that rocket, you remain in that rocket for 10 years traveling at that speed. And then you return to Earth, the time that you see on Earth would be 9,000 years later. Simply speaking, if you want to travel into the future, you can already do it now. It is scientifically possible to do so today. The only problem is that there isn't an aircraft that travels at this speed. You can get to the speed of light. But with improvements in technology, we can build more such aircraft and spaceships that can fly faster. It would slowly become possible. For now, Gennady Padalka, a Russian astronaut, is credited with the most time travel into the future. It's because he remained in space the longest. 879 days. And he was traveling at the speed of 28,000 kilometers per hour in space. Accordingly, he has